So, Kate Zadah, Mantelpiece PR, cosmetic aesthetic PR company from London. I've been in aesthetic PR for 20 years, had my agency for 15, and we've been invited here today to discuss the meshing together of topical cosmetic beauty and cosmetic aesthetics. I've got an amazing panel for you today, three fantastic people in their own right. I've got Natali Kelly, who is from the award-winning Natali Kelly Clinic in Chelsea of London. I've got amazing Dr. Sanjay Parashar, who is huge surgeon of Cocoona Clinic. And I've got the beautiful Lauren O'Connell, who is the beauty editor of Cosmopolitan Middle East. And we're here to talk to you about trends for next year, things that might be helpful for you in your own businesses. And I think what I'll do to start off is just to kick off by talking about the biggest trend that we want to discuss today for next year, which is this idea that between the world of cosmetic aesthetics, surgical practice, and skincare and makeup and cosmetics, there's this in-between grey area where so much is going on that actually isn't represented here today. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today. So what I thought we could do is start off with the lovely Lauren talking about how are consumers looking at their cosmetic routines and what's changed recently.
Well, I think first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me, Kate, and thank you, Beautyworld. I love being here. I was here yesterday, and this is honestly, a privilege and an honor. So for Cosmo, we have mostly a Gen Z and a little bit of a millennial audience. And I'm finding that Gen Zs now are really more about expressing their own personal, individual beauty. So before, I think with the millennials, when the aesthetics started to become popular and people were starting to look for filler options, and they had sort of an ideal that they were trying to look like. Maybe it was someone like Angelina Jolie or Kim Kardashian. Nowadays, women are looking to actually just look like a more beautiful version of themselves. It's more about an individual beauty.
And Lauren, what are they doing to get to that ideal?
So to get to that, they are using Botox, they're using fillers, and also using lasers. Lasers now are huge. Whenever I write an article about lasers, it gets so many hits. And lasers are something I think are relatively new. I only started using lasers myself about 3 years ago, and it certainly wasn't available when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We've seen that boom in the UK as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, this idea that laser usage and all the energy devices that you can get on the market are slowly coming into the world of the beauty salon and the clinic. So it's really bridging that gap. And Dr. Sanjay, I think this is an interesting one for you maybe, is how are you seeing the role of non-surgical treatments in your clinic, given that you're obviously surgical background? What sort of energy devices and things are you finding you're using, and how?
Thank you very much again for inviting me, and thank you all. I've been practicing for last 20 years, and obviously I'm a surgeon to begin with, but I have realized over a period of my practice that people need something less invasive, something which is, very subtle, mild, which does not have side effects, and, quicker recovery. And that's why I found that non-surgical became very popular. People wanted lasers like Lawrence said, and people want radio frequency, people want just facials, just to improve the quality of the skin,
And also, would you find that a lot of these devices are great in conjunction with, rather than instead of, surgical solutions? Are you sort of finding that there's a protocol to use it all? Can you have it all?
So it's a combination. I mean, it all depends on what one needs. There is a group of people who are probably very young and they don't need surgery. They just need superficial treatment. They just need non-surgical lasers, and they are very good with that. But there is a group of people where on the other end, obviously, sometimes these may not work as much and may not give them the dramatic look that they are looking for. And they fall into more of invasive and surgical procedures. But there is a lot in between where, while the people they want to, continuously do something to maintain the skin,
It's interesting because you were saying to me earlier that, these days one of your most popular treatments is liposuction, you were saying, and
That's
anything
right.
to do with fat loss. And you were saying that there's a device that you use in conjunction with lipo, which I thought was very interesting. Tell me more.
So obviously non-surgical fat reduction, everybody wants to do non-surgical fat reduction, but we have seen over the years, there's not been any promising technology that has really helped for everybody. There may be one or two occasions where people may benefit. I do a lot of liposuction, but I've realized that liposuction alone is not the answer. There needs to be continuous management of these patients people to be able to maintain themselves. And, equipments like emerald laser, which is not painful, simple, safe, very effective, particularly for all the lipo patients post-surgery.
Sounds supernatural. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And Natali, obviously you have an award-winning, successful clinic in Chelsea in London. And I guess you're quite well placed to tell us about sort of what's popular with your clientele. And maybe because you were telling me as well that you have a lot of clients from over here that come and visit you over there and vice versa. So what are you seeing in your clinic and what do you think the trends are coming up?
Yeah, so firstly I want to say thank you, Kate, and Beautyworld. Can you not hear me? So thank you, Kate and Beautyworld Middle East for inviting me here today. I've been specialised in medical facial aesthetics for around the last 12 years, and I would say the trends from when I first started practicing was that I practiced more anti-aging medicine. I think now it's more tweakments and combination treatments, and clients really are just pioneering to look like their best self, their most natural self. What's quite interesting is that I'm a millennial myself, so I think over this last 10 years I've seen such a drive towards that and probably the most changes. I love to treat all clients. I have a lot of Middle Eastern clients as well. And my kind of approach is very natural, and I do a lot of injectable makeup techniques. So I've been specialized in that for around the last 7 years. And I think when my Middle Eastern clients visit me, it's very interesting that they are quite scared of fillers and being overfilled. And I develop treatments like 3D facial contouring and injectable makeup and lip revitalize. So using terminology that links back to makeup.
That's also less scary.
Is less scary and allows them to kind of be in control. So they can wake up with injectable makeup, but they know it's not such a big transformation of being overfilled.
And also, I think what we've seen in the UK is an influx of new launches that sort of cater to this natural look, this, almost naturally airbrushed looking skin. Everyone's desperate to have healthy skin. So it's not about just covering your face with makeup.
Yes.
It's about actually looking after the structure of your skin surgically and also, with lasers, etc., the actual superficial surface layers. And we've seen an influx of products that are really respecting that trend, haven't we? So things like the layering of injectables, whereas I think years ago you just had filler and toxin, whereas now you have skin boosters and structural fillers like Sculptra, and you've got, and everything in between. I mean, are you seeing a lot of use of those sort of different tools in your clinic, Sanjay?
So fillers have been great actually. That's helped us a lot to give better results to our patients. So there was a time I used to do a lot of injectables, a lot. I would do maybe 20, 30 in a day, But then we realized and we saw that there was a time when there was a lot of overfilling, a lot of injections which were not indicated in people, and people didn't like the way they looked, And we learned a lot over a period of time that how the fillers behave. We thought it was just 1 year, 2 years, but no, they actually stayed for very, very long time. So of late, people want more natural appearance. So they just want subtle improvement. They want a little bit of injectable here, a little bit of injectable here, and they don't want to look abnormal.
Yeah.
And actually, I was going to say, Lauren, you've got this really interesting sort of perspective in that obviously you're a beauty journalist, very successful beauty journalist, but also you're an influencer.
Yeah.
You've got your social media following.
I do.
How do people look after their skin then? If they're, obviously what would be interesting is you're sort of into the product side as well as the treatment side. So can you tell us about what's happening in the product world?
So one thing that I really noticed, and I've always been a lover of skincare. Skincare I love so much more than makeup. And because of the pandemic, when people were at home, I think they became more aware of their actual skin health, and they started to look for the right skincare products. One thing that I always talk about is the ingredients in the products, because a lot of products that, even if they're very expensive, they're a well-known brand, the ingredients inside can be quite damaging to your skin's biome. So I've been a big, I would say, influencer with skincare ingredients. And I did notice as well, post-pandemic, a lot of brands started coming out with skincare makeup hybrids. So it was makeup products that had skincare ingredients in them. One of the big ones being Huda Beauty with her Glowish line. And
Are they good products, though, when you combine
Yeah.
too many things?
Yeah,
in
I
one?
think
They are-
so. Because for me, anything I put on my face, I want it to benefit my skin
So
somehow.
it's like multitasking makeup. Like
Exactly.
It has to do more than one job.
Exactly. And that is becoming more and more and more popular now.
Yeah, and I think also we were discussing a little bit, weren't we, that there's a lot of skincare brands out there that are sort of understanding the opportunity to be in a clinical setting or more of a sort of non-salon beauty setting. Actually, on the way to the stage, I was watching the Gino talk, and they were talking about anti-aging facials that go a bit further than skincare, and they were introducing a new tool for the face. And I think it just shows you that this boundary
Yes.
between topical skincare and aesthetic treatment are really being blurred by all the big brands. And I personally found that companies like SkinCeuticals back home in the UK are doing a huge aggressive push into clinics and clinical usage because
Yes.
they want people to look after their skin before, during, and after treatments, actual clinical treatments. I wonder, Natali, if you can tell us how that works in your clinic and what you use.
Yeah, I think brands are really clever because they're seeing the opportunity that even if they was for home use before, actually in a clinical setting, if a professional can educate them. So for instance, if we was doing a laser treatment, we love BBL and Moxie, and afterwards we are actually applying some SkinCeuticals products to heal the skin, and then this follows through to their aftercare. So I think if you educate and empower the client on what to use, show them how to apply it, they're much more likely to have kind of compliance at home. And I think any surgery or any kind of treatment that we do or any makeup that we're applying, it really does come back to like good skincare.
And what are your favorite brands for looking after, you know, the skin of somebody who's maybe just had injectables or just had laser? What do you love using on people?
I'm quite neutral. I kind of cherry pick from all of the brands, but I love SkinCeuticals, Zeo, Abaji, the professional ones. So that's mostly what I recommend. I love Heliocare, SPF also. I usually use that. So
Amazing. And do you think that maybe with your audience, people, like you were saying, they want multitasking treatments, but if they're going to bother to look after their skin at home, they want really results-driven clinical back, don't they?
Yes.
Or is it like, I feel like we've gone away from the sort of prettifying ourselves and we want things that actually work. But do you think that
Exactly.
works?
And you can see that in so many brands now on the back of the label. This is very, I will say I've seen this more in the US than the UAE, but I know it is coming here. When you look at the ingredients label, they'll actually point out which each ingredient does, why it's in the product. And it's kind of a way for brands to have a transparency and for consumers to know what they're actually buying. There are beauty e-coms in the GCC where they have ingredients explainers on the beauty products that they sell. So if you click on the product, you can actually also see what each ingredient in there does. So if there are bad ones
That's
in
amazing.
there, it kind of calls them out.
Oh, that's fantastic. So
Yeah.
brands are less likely to use filler ingredients or
Absolutely.
cheap ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say, I don't know if you would agree, but that the average consumer is a lot more knowledgeable than they ever used to be.
I think because they read Cosmo.
Good plug. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean,
But yes, my Instagram account really is about skincare ingredients and going into skincare and the different things that I do, and I share all my knowledge. My background is in biomechanical engineering, and I also have a master's of science in nursing, so I like the bio aspect of it as well.
so you're like the beauty and the geek.
Yeah, yes, geek chic. But people want to be informed now. They want to know what they're spending their money on. And I think a lot of this is because the pandemic caused everything to slow down, and stuff that we normally wouldn't think about, we had a lot of time to suddenly think about.
And I think it made us all take that time to feel like, how are we going to feel more comfortable in our skin at this
Yes.
time that's so
We
there's so
looked-
much unrest in the world.
We looked at ourselves a lot on Zoom. So
Yes, we did. Absolutely. I was going to ask you guys, like, in terms of what you're excited about next year, any new treatments, any new products, any new protocols, what are you really excited about for 2023?
Start with the non-surgical ones first.
So non-surgical, I would say our most popular treatments are probably face and body contouring. So we love combining HIFU. Like I said, I feel so responsible and ethical that I have a younger demographic of clients, predominantly 20 to 40. So I've got clients that I've treated for the last 10 years. I'm going to see them hopefully for the next 10 to 20 years. So I need to be very cautious about how I treat them, how I make them age positively. But I would say yes, combining, lifting, tightening the skin, radio frequency, HIFU, and then really pulling it back on injectables. So I kind of do a foundation contour refinement technique. So we may do bone injections to kind of lift and contour, but then I'll use very much thinner, much softer products in the mid-face or under the eye. I'll use more like a skin booster for an injectable concealer because, of course, when we travel, if we drink alcohol, as females, we have hormones. I'm sure you've seen very bad lymphatic drainage issues in the face. So always about under-correcting and telling clients that this is a journey. It's an aesthetic journey. Even if they start with me at 30, start little, do your skin health, use your skincare, microneedling, radio frequency, anything to improve the quality of the skin. And then a little bit of baby Botox, a little bit of injectable treatments. But I think clients need to be educated and then they feel empowered of what suits them rather than just copycatting celebrity beauty trends, let's say.
And you mentioned Botox. One of the things we noticed was that there's an influx of new toxins launching in the next year or so. It's a little bit of a raft of, it's just crazy because I feel like a lot of people really don't understand what toxin is in the first place. They still call it Botox, which actually is now a brand. It's not all there is out there. So there's all these different differentiators. So as an injector, how do you differentiate between different toxins? What factors are consumers should they be looking for? What makes one different to another?
I think what's interesting is you may take a product because you train in it and then you may become a key opinion leader for that product. But I think a lot of practitioners are going much more neutral these days. They're really doing the research and development, and really assessing the results that your client gets with that product. So is it lasting long? Is the patient satisfaction? And then you might swap and change. So I'm not, like I said, exclusive to certain brands. I think what's really interesting is the consumers looking for the least inflammatory products that work more quickly, so less downtime. You see Ravinesse dermal fillers, for instance, so less swelling. The new Botox, Alluzience, has apparently got less protein, so if someone was vegan, etc., animal and human protein, so less kind of reaction. So I think the consumer, like you said, Lauren, are really dialing into actually what Botox and what dermal fillers and what are you actually injecting into my face.
And another launch for currently that we're seeing is this new hybrid injectable, which is, both a sort of dermal filler and a collagenetic product, which is really interesting. I wonder, with your background, Sanjay, can you explain the difference between a filler and a collagenetic booster?
Filler is hyaluronic acid, basically. So it's the normal framework of our tissue. Our skin is supported by hyaluronic acid. So hyaluronic acid fillers are meant to replace that. So, people who are losing these framework in the skin and causing them to have wrinkles and stuff like that. So it helps. It's a ready-made infrastructure for the skin. So I love it. But at the same time, obviously it has its own disadvantages as well because it can be unpredictable in long term sometimes. It might just over-volumize the face, build a lot of, absorb a lot of water and hydrate and overhydrate the skin. So people have now started to reduce the hyaluronic acid concentration and add something that will naturally stimulate your own collagen. So that is so far working very well because you have a subtle amount of hyaluronic acid which is doing its job, yet
That
there are ingredients
multitasker
which is
you were
stimulating.
talking about.
What's that?
Multitasker. It does
Yeah,
two jobs.
the
Build your own
multitasking.
collagen
Yeah.
and fill in the
Yeah.
holes.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful concept.
Yeah, and I believe that one's an Allergan product, I think.
Yes.
Harmonica, I think it's called. So I don't know if you have it over here yet, but that's, I think, going to be quite an interesting trend for next year.
I think what it does is the client wants an instant result, but then I think
And
it's
then
delivering
ongoing.
long-term kind of collagen stimulation. So you always want to give them immediate result, minimal downtime, but then they know they're investing long-term, that they're going to get better, not that they're going to have a lot of work done and then spend a lot of money and get worse.
And so we have all these high expectations from our treatments. Where are these high expectations coming from, do you feel?
Celebrity culture, social media,
TikTok.
TikTok, trends. Yeah.
Sorry.
And this look you're talking about, it goes back to the whole sort of the best you can be rather than fitting a sort of format.
Yes.
Everybody wanting to look like Kim Kardashian. You were telling me that there was this trend where everybody wanted to look like Kim.
Yeah, well, I think when you think about when Instagram first came out, that was how many years ago? 10, 8? I don't, somewhere around that. And, you would see these highly edited photos, but back then we didn't realize how edited they actually were. And Snapchat came out with filters. You would have the filter on your face and you'd say to yourself, that's what I want to look like. That's the version of me I want to be. So you would take this filter and bring it to an aesthetic doctor.
Or worse, a surgeon.
And, that's what you expected to see. And that's why there was such this, I don't want to say it, but we all know what it was, right? Like going on in this area of the face where it's just blown up and it doesn't look actually human. And that was going on for so long until I think, I'm going to say it once again, I think it was the pandemic and it just made people really look at themselves.
Reset almost.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it became about do what's right for you. Find a practitioner that's going to understand what your teeth are like, so how the lips are going to balance out and your bone
When you
structure.
smile, what's going to happen to your lips
exactly.
on top of your teeth?
Do you need a little tweaking around here to support the lips and whatever you're doing?
Yeah.
And slowly, I think maybe more journalists started writing about these things. There were more influencers that were, I would say, body positive and face positive, if that's a phrase. And all these things just kind of came together and it shifted the industry.
Yeah, which obviously for the benefit of the consumer at the end, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can all look like the best of ourselves
As
rather
we
than
should,
carbon
right?
copy ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Sanjay, how often do people come to you with filtered selfies and say, make me look like this? And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, when it became, crazy, obviously everybody, but now I have a Thor hammer in my office. The moment they show me the camera, I just, yeah, jokes apart, they do come time to time. It's become less now, which is very interesting. So I'm very happy about that. I think people have realized that it's software, it's filters, which is not actually what they are, So I think it's balancing. And I'm sure it will balance out.
That. Yeah. Fantastic. So I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to add trend-wise, but if there are any questions from the audience, if anybody wants to ask these guys any questions. Obviously, Natalie's background is very much injectables and clinic. Oh, there's a lady over there. Is there a microphone? Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the insights that you all have imparted. So my question is to all of you all, because I think we all sitting here bear so much of effort towards what and how a consumer makes a decision. You mentioned about patient education, right? Or educating your client. Who do you think are the real torch bearers of this? Like who do you think can influence the decision of a client or a patient the most?
That's a really good question. I think that has to go to media. Lauren?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Oh. Do you want to, we were just talking, you might want the mic back. I think the lady was saying, who holds the torch? Who is responsible for helping the consumer to become educated? Is that correct? Is that
That's
your
a good question.
That's correct.
Which
Well,
I think needs to go to media, don't you?
I think it depends on who that consumer is and where they're looking for their information. You're going to have a lot of Gen Zs now looking on TikTok. Someone told me, I don't know if this is true or not, but the TikTok search engine is now bigger than Google's. And Gen Zs go to TikTok. So whatever pops up is what they're going to see. And if it's one of the influencers they like, they'll take that, verbatim and believe that's to be true, whether it is or not. I think with maybe an older person like myself, I wouldn't go to TikTok. I would probably look for. Actually, I'd probably look at what Natalie's doing. I would look on her website because, I like the way she looks and she's a professional and I know that she would know what she's talking about. So I would look for someone like Natali, but that's also because I'm looking for more of I'm looking for a different type of expert. So
I think there's a massive job to be done as well, just to add to that. And I know that Lauren, obviously you know a lot about cosmetic aesthetics and beauty, given your role, but in the UK we have a lot of journalists that probably don't know as much as you. And I think from a PR perspective, we also have a job on behalf of people like Natali and Dr. Sanjay, who we need to sort of communicate what it is that they're doing so that the journalist understands it, so they can then in turn write about it, effectively from an educational standpoint for their readership. So there's this whole chain, I think. It's not like a quick fix, sadly.
I also meant to add that, of course, everyone looks at Cosmo to find the information.
I think you have another lady over here. Thank you.
Hi everyone, that was a great panel, so thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm a beauty founder, and what I'm seeing in the cosmetic space is that now, the consumer is demanding things to just be a lot cleaner. They care about sustainability and about products being vegan and clean. But I'm a major dermatology girl. I love my Abaji and, all these kind of things. And I'm just wondering, though, in the space of skincare and dermatology and plastic surgery, how do you balance with that new demand from the consumer and having products and treatments that are still as effective? Because I feel like
such a good question.
Before it was people would only want a medical grade facial because they felt like that's what worked. So how are you dealing with that in what you do?
I think if I start off the answer, I would say from a PR perspective, I have brands approaching me to help do PR campaigns, and they come to me with what they feel are their unique selling points and their key messages. And quite often, people will say, we're recycled or we're eco or we've got no, brilliant carbon footprint. But I always go back and say to them that all of that doesn't matter if the product itself doesn't get the results. And unfortunately, a bit like the theme we've been following today is people are so demanding about what they're buying that I feel like you can't really choose one in favor of the other. You kind of need to have it all. Would you guys agree? You guys have the clinic customers. What do you think?
Yeah, my background is wellness. So in the UK, of course, I can prescribe medicine. So I'm trained Western, but then I always have an Eastern approach. So I think it's understanding sometimes we need a little bit of Botox, and that's all that's going to get rid of your wrinkle. But then maybe you would only inject hyaluronic acid instead of something that was more permanent in the past, like the radiation sculpture, for instance. But then I think they may want to use something more natural at home, so hyaluronic acid. Some clients are against retinols. They think that's too active, so then maybe we're incorporating a peptide or a growth factor or a stem cell. So I tell my clients it's all about balance, a little bit of everything, including lifestyle, environment, good sleep, exercise, all of this stuff
Everything
plays
has its
a role.
place, right?
Everything has a place.
Everything has its place. Any more questions? Thank you very much for coming, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.